Happy Monday, everybody. Another Monday means another week of full out chats. I am your host, Steve Solberg, and I am excited as always to bring in another great chat, another great story from another legend in the cheer community. Today, we'll be bringing in LeRoy McCullough, co-ed coach of the US National Team. Super excited to hear his story. I know it's going to be a great one. Got some great pictures and ready to go down memory lane with LeRoy here in a second. But before we can go full out, we need music. So like every coach says, let's just do it one more time. Music's on.
Are you ready? Full out chats. Do you know what time it is? We got control, we got the right, we got the vision, you lose the sight. We will never stop. We got the drums here. What time is it? Full out. We're live in 5, 6, 7, 8.
That means we are going full out with LeRoy McCullough. I see LeRoy, so let's get him on here. LeRoy.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you again for being here today.
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. No, I'm just excited to hear your story. I know that we're all kind of cooped up and getting bored, I'm sure, and just looking for things to do. And so I was excited to start this up and really just give a platform for people to tell us their story. I mean, I think obviously a lot of people know you about your coach LeRoy and everything like that, US National Team, Oklahoma State, cheer athletics and everything. But I don't think people really know you. What's your background? Where'd you come from? How'd you get into this thing called cheerleading? And so that's kind of exactly where I like to start off, is just start from the beginning. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What other sports did you play? And then how did you get into cheerleading?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a long story. I'm an Army brat, so I was born in Fort Hood, Texas. I'm actually a Texan by birth. And then my dad got stationed elsewhere. Like we moved from Texas to Japan, and then from Japan we came back to stateside and lived in Georgia and then Kentucky. Moved to North Carolina. Then we moved to Germany, and then came back home. Yeah, and so my dad retired from the military in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and that's where I finished from 7th grade through high school. So that's home. That's where both of my parents reside now. And all growing up, I was 3-sport athlete: football, baseball, basketball. When the seasons changed, my sports changed, and never even once thought cheerleading was a possibility until I got to high school. And one day, me and my dad were watching national championship on ESPN. Mm-hmm. My dad was like, "Man, they're pretty athletic." I was like, "I know, it's kind of cool, right?" Mm-hmm. And still at that point had no idea that that's where my life was going to take me. But a friend of mine in high school, a girl named Natalie Marfisi, who went to cheer at NC State. And when we were in high school, she knew she was going there, and she made the team and stuff. And it was after a basketball game. We're at one of our friend's house, and she's outside, and she's showing people how to stunt. And I'm like, wait, what are y'all doing? Y'all picking her up? Like, I want to try. And so I did my first stunt. It was a chair. And so, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, holding a human over my head. This is neat. But never thought anything else of it. Well, one of my close friends from high school, his mom owns a cheer company called Cheer Limited, and they held one of their biggest camps right down the street from our house. So we used to always go, being high school boys, knowing there were hundreds of high school girls. We would go and hang out, and so so we kind of got our first exposure to it. And then the summer after my senior year in high school, they were holding the camp, and some of their staffers got car trouble, and so they didn't have enough staff. So me and one of my buddies were like, "Hey, we'll help." And so they put us in uniform. I already knew how to do a chair. So how hard can this be? I thought. And so I was basically a staff apprentice for that camp. We had such a good time that we begged her to let us go to the next camp. So then we drove to Asheville, North Carolina, and then we drove from Asheville to Boston and did another camp. So we ended up going and doing 3 camps that summer with just apprentice, just running around spotting people and acting like we knew what we were doing. So after that, went to college, and this girl asked me to come to cheer tryouts. I went to college thinking I was going to play baseball and football. was going to walk on, got hurt in a car wreck, and didn't end up walking on. So I was just a normal college student, which the first time in my life was weird. I didn't have a sport, didn't have practice, nothing except for intramurals. And so this girl asked me to come to cheer tryouts. I went, and I was already the best stunner on the team. So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I can do this. And so did that for a little while. And then for all you youngsters listening, when you go away from home, you need to really be responsible, because otherwise you end up coming home because you made bad grades, which is what my parents did. They snatched me home, and so I ended up going to the same school that I went to watch the cheer camps. I ended up going there, which is Methodist College, which is like a mile from my house. And so I transferred there, and that's when I actually got serious about cheer. They had a competitive squad. Got an opportunity to kind of redeem myself academically there, and so I did. First time I competed was at UCA College Nationals when it was held in San Diego at SeaWorld.
Yep.
And so first one was in San Antonio.
Okay.
And then the second one was in San Diego. So and then one of my teammates from that team transferred to University of South Carolina, and she told her coach at the time about me and how she thought I'd be good and I could have opportunity to be on that team. And so the coach's name is Bill Boggs. Mm-hmm. And so I went down and visited. I met Bill, and he invited me to come and try out. So I went and tried out, made it, and transferred to South Carolina. That's kind of where cheer took a whole nother evolution for me. Like it was cheering in SEC stadiums with 80,000 people. Like, now put it this way, when I cheered in South Carolina, we were not good at football. And we lost every game one year and sold out every game. Like it was that kind of place where every game was an event, every game was fun, and I got to cheer with amazing people. And it was awesome. Like South Carolina was a great experience for me. I got hurt towards the end of my career there. I changed my mind in the middle of a tumbling pass and fell on my head, broke my neck.
Oh my! Like literally broke it though?
Literally.
Oh my goodness!
Fractured C1. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, and so that kind of put competitive on a pause for a minute. Somebody commented about our gloves. We had dope gloves. Pat Wedge hooked us up. We had gloves that had the South Carolina logo on them and everything.
So same thing here at Purdue. Whenever we get the old school pictures and the stunter gloves, that was a big deal.
Yeah,
and
man.
Whenever those alumni come back, we kind of make fun of them for it.
Yeah, man. We were.
But no, if Pat Wedge was wearing them, everybody could wear them.
Well, we were revolution. Yeah, Pat. It was Pat's idea for us to wear gloves, and we all bought in, and they got us gloves with the Gamecock logo on them. We were the deal. So yeah, after I got hurt at South Carolina, I was on UCA staff at the time, and then I wasn't able to work because I was hurt. And so during that time, Bill Boggs took over the collegiate program at NCA. Mm-hmm. And so when I fully finished my recovery and everything, and I was back to being able to do stuff, he was like, hey, why don't you come over to NCA with me and do this college program? And so I did. Mm-hmm. Switched over, and it was like I'd always heard, oh, well, it's so different, it's so weird, and it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Like it was actually on par with everything I had learned and known and everything. So it was cool opportunity, and we were kind of at a different level at that point with trying to recreate the college program over there, and just being able to be a part of that with him was really cool. Since then, I mean, he's one of my best friends. He's my mentor. He's like brother, father, uncle. Like he is all that to me. So it was a bond that was created that's lasted now over 20 years. Like it's been my dude for 20 years, man. Mm-hmm. So then after during that time, that's when I met James mm-hmm. Speed, when I switched over to NCA side, and I'd heard that this dude, James Speed, and I was like, who is this guy? I know, no. And so when I finally met him, I was like, that's James Speed. And then he started to stunt, and I was like, oh, that's James Speed. Okay.
A lot of people don't know that. Like, I mean, James Speed was really, really an innovator. I mean, really good.
James was doing stuff that even now people don't do. Like, and this was a long time ago. Like too long for me to tell. If you can tell by this gray in my beard, it was a long time ago.
I saw
And
Lori made a nice little comment about the beard, loving it.
yeah, man, this is my Corona protest beard. That's what this is. I'm growing it out until she goes away. So yeah, so he was so inspirational for me. Like, just working with him as an instructor was great. But then as I was working, I decided I was gonna go get my master's. And he was like, "Well, why don't you just come cheer at Louisville while you get your master's?" And I was like, "Sure." I had no ties. Like, I could go. So I just packed up and went to Louisville, Kentucky to get my master's at University of Louisville.
And by then, the neck's feeling better. You're healed.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
but one of his criteria for me coming to cheer there was he wasn't gonna let me tumble no more, and I didn't cry. I wasn't sad. He was like, "No more flipping," and I was like, "Bet." So
that's the thing is, like, that was always the huge difference between UC and NCA. Was NCA you could specialize, you could be a specialty person, you could just stunt or just tumble, and that was definitely something that I know a lot of people. Still even today, even you have those 4 extra people on the mat. That's a huge difference. You can definitely do that. So real quick for people joining us, this is awesome. We're here with LeRoy McCullough. LeRoy is talking about his story here, and if you have any questions for LeRoy, we'll be doing a Q&A at the end, and at the bottom of the screen, just tap on that question mark and send us some questions, and happy to get those questions over to LeRoy here later. So LeRoy is now starting his master's degree at Louisville, but before we get there, what was your undergraduate in? What were you studying before you went to Louisville?
At South Carolina, I got my undergrad in athletic training. So
okay.
I aspired to be a trainer, and I didn't end up sitting for my boards because right out of school I got a job managing a cheer gym, and I was working for Bill Boggs, managing his gym and doing summer camp stuff with him. So it ended up being a better salary than what I would have gotten as a first year trainer coming out. So I didn't even take my NAT exam or anything. So but it served me well over the years. Like, we know the nature of athletics. There's always going to be something happens here, something happens there, and I just happen to have a little bit of knowledge to be able to at least secure the situation so we could get them to a doctor or whatever needed to be done. So it served me well over the years, for sure. And then when I went to Louisville, I went to get my master's in sports administration.
Oh, so, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So then at that point I was like, I'm going to maybe try to be an athletic director or do something in sport marketing or something along those lines. And so, but as soon as I got done with my master's at Louisville, I stayed and helped manage James's gym at Gym Time in Louisville for a few years before deciding to make the move to Oklahoma.
I was going to say, so, kind of really at a young age, the coaching bug got you, but even at Louisville at the time, you're still thinking after cheerleading's done, you're done, right? You're going to do real world stuff, quote unquote. And so you weren't even sure yet. At that point,
I didn't think that cheerleading could be the real world job at that point. There was just no trend that would lead you to believe that at that time. But so I was planning on my career being something else besides cheerleading. So when I was at Louisville, I ended up, actually before I got to Louisville, I met my now wife. Just as we were instructors, we met each other, knew each other for years. But then when I was in Louisville and stuff, we became reacquainted again, and then our friendship started to develop, and then it blossomed over time and kind of got to a point where it's a really good long distance relationship. But it was kind of got to do something else to see if it's ready to move to the next level. Well, she was finishing school at the University of Oklahoma, so I was like, okay, well, I'm not in school anymore, so I'll just come to you. So I just packed it up and moved to Oklahoma on a whim to see if it was what was supposed to happen. And
what was the Oklahoma State job already lined up? Did you already get that position or no?
No.
Oh, so wow. Okay.
So here was my mentality. I was helping coach at Gym Time. I was helping coach at University of Louisville. I had been helping Misty with All Girl for 3 years, and they had won 3 years in a row. And then coaching at Gym Time, we had been very successful. And then the high school team I coached had just won nationals. And so I was like, you know what? It's not going to get any better than this in Oklahoma. I'm going to stop coaching. And so I moved to Oklahoma looking for jobs. I applied for the funniest job I didn't get was an admissions counselor at the University of Phoenix. And I was like, man, I didn't get that job. And they're like, no, you're too qualified. You have a master's degree. I was like, oh, okay. My self-esteem was plummeting at that point. I was like, oh, man. So my wife was coaching at Twist and Shout in Edmond, Oklahoma on the side. And so she introduced me to Orson Sykes, who, like, if I kind of have this Mount Rushmore of people who have influenced me along my life. And of course, Boggs and James are on that Mount Rushmore, but Orson is right up there on that Mount Rushmore too. And, you know, and even then at that point, he was like, hey, just come in, you can do private lessons. And I think it was kind of his way of seeing what kind of dude I was and see what I was about. And so I started doing privates there. And then he asked me to coach at that point, it was just the senior co-ed, like small co-ed team at Twist and Shout with him. And I was like, well, dang, I'm not going to say no to this opportunity. This is great. So started coaching there. And then one of the guys that coached at the gym was a cheerleader at OSU.
Okay.
And they had lost their coach. Their coach at the time was married to assistant basketball coach. And he got a head coaching job somewhere in the middle of football season.
Okay.
And so she left, and they were being coached by their trainer at the time. He was basically just supervising the practices and giving them conditioning stuff, and they were teaching themselves cheer. And so he went and told the spirit coordinator about me, and they invited me to Stillwater, which is about an hour away from my house. And actually, at that point, I was living in Norman. So it was like an hour and a half.
Oh, wow. So
I was living in enemy territory. And then it's like you living in Bloomington and coaching at Purdue.
Yeah, right.
So, which I have a good story about that too. So
excellent.
I went and I interviewed for the job, and as soon as that interview was over, I went to practice and ran my first practice. And this was in February, and they were going to nationals in April.
What year is this?
This was 2004.
2004. Okay,
yeah.
Wow. So really, the Oklahoma State job just kind of.
I
don't want to say it fell in your lap, but it kind of did, really.
I kind of tripped and fell over it, for real.
Yeah. And so you're at Oklahoma State now, 2004. You're taking over kind of halfway through football season. Don't know any of the traditions. Don't know any of the cheers. Probably don't know really much about it. So kind of talk about joining or taking over a program like halfway through a season, basically.
You know, it was more than halfway. We were We were almost through basketball season. We were about to get ready for the tournament.
Oh, wow.
I just, my first practice, I just went and watched them do skills and gave corrections and stuff. And then, I mean, every tradition and stuff that was in place, I just left it and tried to clean it up and make it as presentable as possible. But at that point, I mean, they were literally done. And so their main focus for me was, hey, let's get ready for nationals. At that point, they had made finals in, I think it was like 4 or 5 years before that, leading up to that point. So kind of went into it like, okay, well, we have talented kids. Like, let's just try to put something together that they can go and do. And I think for them at that point, they were kind of coaching themselves really because so it was kind of good just to have a outside eye to be able to kind of give some guidance to help them get to where they want to go. And that first year we actually went and came in third.
Oh, wow. Okay. Large co-ed only?
Yeah.
Okay.
At that point, we only have one team. And I don't know if you know the traditions at NCA, but like usually at NCA college, the winners go into the ocean with their trophy and stuff. Well, that year, if you would have looked, you'd have thought we won because we were in the ocean right next to the team that won, and we're celebrating with our third place trophy, and we were the happiest. I mean, it's one of my more fond memories coaching wise because and it was more of a eye opener for me because I was always if you don't win, you didn't do good. If you don't get first place, you didn't do good. And they went out and did the best that we could possibly have done, and they were so proud, and I was so proud, and they it was kind of an epiphany moment for me, if you will, because it really changed the value in my mind and changed the description of what a win is. Because you know, we get locked in all the time that if you're not the last name called, you didn't win. You weren't successful. And really, it really showed me that there's way more wins in cheerleading than just one. So so that was a cool experience.
So
And then
we
it
are
just
here
kind of,
with LeRoy McCullough. I mean, the numbers are going up. I see more people joining. This is great. He's talking to his story. We've gotten through his Louisville years, and he literally kind of fell into the Oklahoma State job. If you have any questions for LeRoy, we're going to have a Q&A here in about 20 minutes. So just tap the question mark at the bottom and send us any questions, and LeRoy will be happy to answer them here later in the interview. So you've kind of completed your first kind of quarter season with Oklahoma State, but did very well at nationals. So kind of talk about the mindset of what you were thinking in terms of going into your first full season, your first tryout, and kind of really your first team that you get to select there.
yeah, really the first year I just wanted to kind of start creating a culture. Like OSU's program has a rich history, but when I got there was kind of a gap between the highs and then where we were coming in. So I was just trying to try to set a standard as to what I was hoping for it to be, from the way they carried themselves at games to the way they acted at camp to the skill requirement and just the whole overall persona, how we looked when we were out in public, like all of that stuff. I was trying to create the image that I wanted it to be, and one that I thought that would make the athletic department proud. It wasn't easy at first. Some of the older ones were there, and I mean, they were seniors. They had been there the whole time, and they were pretty set that the way they were doing it was the right way. Mm-hmm. And I was pretty set that the way I wanted it done was the only way. Mm-hmm. You know, and so there was some friction in the beginning. That honeymoon period of the success at nationals wore off quickly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, but again, for me, it was a learning opportunity as well, because I would say I was not the most open to suggestion. I was that mentality of, I'm the coach and this is what I said to do, mm-hmm. you know, and your opinion doesn't matter. If you want one, I'll give it to you, kind of thing. And mm-hmm. and it wasn't right. It wasn't working for them, and it sure wasn't working for me, because it was just creating conflict. So mm-hmm. it kind of opened me up to be able to talk with them and kind of work together as we are a unit getting to this, versus this is what I said do, now you do it. And it took having a sit down with some of the kids on the team and my boss, mm-hmm. for me to kind of see that, and open my mind to their perspective and kind of see, okay, I need to coach everybody differently, because mm-hmm. I can't coach them all the same way. I can't coach them the way I was coached, or coach them the way I would be open and receive coaching, because it's not going to work like that for everybody. We're not all coached the same. And so that was a kind of a big stepping point for me to kind of progress in my communication with people. And I think it's helped me a lot, because mm-hmm. you can be a little bullheaded. You won't get, it's like running headfirst into a brick wall. You're not going to move it.
Again, we're here with LeRoy McCullough. We're talking some coaching philosophy here. He's going into his first full season with Oklahoma State. And again, in about 20 minutes, we're going to do a Q&A. So if you have a question for LeRoy, tap on the question mark at the bottom there. It just looks like a deck of cards. Send me some questions, and I will be happy to get that to LeRoy. So going into your first full season at Oklahoma State, I mean, clearly you have the mentality of I mean, let's be honest, you have like the Louisville mentality where you're going to win. That's it. The mindset is like, we're going to try to win this thing, you know. And obviously, taking third your first year, you're thinking maybe this is a possibility.
Yeah.
But also, you're competing against your alma mater. You're competing against the program that basically taught you everything you knew. Kind of talk about that. How was it competing against Louisville?
You know, it's actually interesting. So when I went to Louisville, there had never been a Louisville team to lose 3 years in a row mm-hmm. at that point. And I was on the first Louisville teams to lose 3 years in a row. So when I finished cheering at Louisville was the first time that they had won in 3 years. And so it was the year after me. They won, and it started a 7-year win streak.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And so it was okay, this is where we need to go. This is where we need to get. That's what we're shooting for. And the kids being competitors, I mean, it started to turn into like they were very anti, like, we want to beat them. We want to beat them. And I'm like, that's my alma mater. So I'm like, I'm not anti, but I'm anti-losing. So we're going to have to figure this out, kind of thing. So there's definitely a motivation there and a push. And it started from, I think, the first full year, like being at camp on campus. Like I was at every camp that came to campus, just looking for kids and trying to sell them on our program. And I mean, selling is hard when we didn't have scholarships. Like it's not like you're like, hey, you come, I'll give you a full ride.
Yeah.
It's you're trying to sell them on, and there's no history of recent, like you can't say, hey, we just won nationals, like come to this. So it was selling them on a culture that we're creating and being a part of something that's coming, and I remember the first girl that I recruited, little bitty redhead from this small town called Hominy, Oklahoma. And she had on a cheer skirt. It was past her knees. And she whipped through the bent leg layout step out on the basketball court, but she was like 4 foot and nothing. And I was like, hey,
hey,
where are you going to school? I could teach a lot of things, but I can't teach little. Come here. So I talked to her, and at that point, she had no idea where she was going to school. And so she said, oh, I'd love to come to your OSU. And I was like, well, good. Go get in school. Like, let me know. This is when tryouts are. And she made it cheer for 4 years. I think she might have did a fifth, actually. And like, she was great. But it was just opportunities like that. And then I just was swinging for the fences. I know, like, you remember Pro X?
Oh gosh, yes. Pro X was really the first internet buzz of kind of what is Instagram today with all the stunting and everything going on. Like, one of my really good friends is Tim Wagner, old school guy. Tim Wagner was, I mean, for all you youngins who don't know who Tim Wagner is, look him up. His technique was flawless, super good. But it was him and Darren and all those guys doing the Pro X thing, and I just remember watching that stuff. I remember the first time I saw on video the one-arm rewind, and I'm like, what is going on here?
Well, there were two girls on there, two high school girls, Mandy and Jamie, the Jam and Thumper. And they were cheer athletics kids, and I just shot my shot. I was recruiting them. I'm like, hey, you should come. You should come and be a part of this. And I just remember talking to them and trying to sell them on the program. And I know Mandy was being recruited by everybody, and Jamie was being recruited by everybody, and they decided they were going to come and cheer for me. And that's the equivalent of, like, nowadays, like, two kids on TikTok that got 50 million followers coming to cheer for you. Like it's the equivalent of that. So it kind of helped to elevate it to being a cool place to consider cheering. And then after that, like, all these other good kids started looking at it as an option of somewhere to go. So it I mean, don't get it twisted. Like, there was, at that point, HPU was still giving full rides, and there was still Louisville's reputation, and Vero and Trinity Valley and SFA. And so there's all these places still for people to go. But now our program was in that conversation. So then it kind of made it to where, okay, now we have something to build from. And then, like, before I got to OSU, there was a rich connection with the junior colleges in Texas. And so I wanted to try to make sure that we had that. And so I just used some of the people that had come through those programs. Hey, let them know we want them. And so it got a good influx of JUCO kids at one time. And then it kind of started a little Northwest connection for me. I started getting guys from Oregon, and they would tell their friends, and their friends would come down and stuff. And I mean, I think, let's see, Mark, Matt, Tyler, I think I probably had 7 dudes that came from the Pacific Northwest.
Wow. That
came and cheered at OSU. Like, while I was there. And all of them were legit. All of them were so good. And they just kept telling their friends, and their friends just kept coming. And, and it was transformational. It really was.
Again, we're here with LeRoy McCullough. He's talking about building the Oklahoma State program here. If you have any questions for LeRoy, we're going to start our Q&A here in about 15 minutes. So just tap that question mark box at the bottom, and LeRoy will be happy to answer those questions. Again, just send any questions our way. So what was the first year you won at Oklahoma State?
2007, we won small co-ed. And that was the first year we had a small co-ed team.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
Sorry, 08. It was 08.
Okay.
2008. And that was our first year having a small co-ed team, and they won. And I'm like, holy crap. And then we won 2010 and 2012. We won both. So 2010 we won large, and then 2012 we won large and small.
So, I mean, just kind of talk about, I guess, that mentality. When did you know, man, this could be the team? You know, I mean, this could be it. I mean, obviously, as you said, I mean, recruiting and getting the right talent, because ultimately the kids on the mat are the ones that get it done. I mean, that's just, that obviously goes without saying. So, kind of talk about when you realize as a coach, like, holy crap, I think this is it. I think I might do it this year.
Well, I don't know about when I thought it would happen, like what year I thought it would happen specifically, but I knew the mentality had changed the second year at Nationals.
Okay.
Because remember, I said the first year we got third, and we were in the ocean next to the winners celebrating.
Yep.
The second year we got third, and everybody was crying,
mad, and
distraught, and upset and disappointed, not in the outcome necessarily, but in the fact that they didn't do what they had strived and trained to do. So right then, it kind of gave me the idea that, okay, this is going the right way. Like the way they're thinking is conducive to being successful. And so then I think it was third place, and then we had a streak of seconds, like 3 seconds in a row, and one of those was by .007. And that was
not 07,
007. 007. Yeah, we had that like in one of our t-shirt. The next year it was like hidden in our design all over the place. There was just 007s all on it.
Oh, wow.
It was the motivation for sure. And that was like, as a coach, you know, like all you can ask your kids to do is hit a routine. And that was probably, as a coach at OSU, I think that was the best routine that we ever hit on the mat at Nationals when it mattered the most. And it was a little short. And so that one was like, stabbed to the heart. But yeah, I think that was when I knew like that next year's team was going to be, it wasn't going to take me anything to get them motivated. They were going to be ready. And just the leadership we had on the team, like they started pushing themselves more than I was pushing them. I wasn't having to ask them to come in to practice extra. I wasn't having to ask them to do another rep. They were asking me for extra reps. I was having to kick them out. Hey, basketball's coming. They need the gym. We got to go. Like, roll the mats up. So I think that was kind of the turning point. And then we have a really strong family at Oklahoma State. And I say we have still, even though I haven't been coaching there since 2012, because it started when I was there. And I know you always see, like, you see lots of programs that have their program letters and it has a secret meaning to it and stuff. And it's like some of them are really, really old and some of them are not that old, but the value that was the values that were put upon that program when we instituted ours has, in my mind, changed it forever. And built a family that's to this day continues to grow. They actually just had their new introduction of the new family members this past weekend on a Zoom call, and just reading the comments from all the alumni and how many of them got on and were part of it. Like it was cool, but you really puts it into perspective the emphasis on family and your success. If you have a team that's united as one, you know, they're going to fight. They're going to push for each other and in any circumstance, no matter what it is. And you kind of take that for granted sometimes until you see it kind of evolve and blossom, and you see that camaraderie that has gone for years and years now. And Sweet Tea.
I was saying, there's a lot of great comments. Obviously, some people making some comments. They're enjoying hearing your story here with LeRoy. And again, in about 10 minutes, we're going to start a Q&A. So if you have questions or just a nice shout out for LeRoy, pop it down in the question mark box below. I can pop it up here, and LeRoy be happy to answer them. So again, in about 10 minutes, we're going to do a Q&A here with LeRoy, talking about anything you want. I mean, he is, in my opinion, one of the most accomplished coaches that we have here today. And if you have any questions for him about coaching or philosophy, send them below. He'd be happy to answer them. So talk about the picture right here, your first double, I believe, or one of your doubles.
That was 2012.
Okay, 12.
That was my last year.
Your last year at Oklahoma State. So kind of talk about your last year at Oklahoma State and kind of that process, and then really going out on top, winning both small co-ed and large co-ed for you.
Yeah, so when my wife and I started dating seriously, we decided we wanted to raise our family in Dallas.
Okay.
Like she's from the Dallas area. There's great schools and great opportunities. So we knew that's where we wanted to end up. And we made a pact that whoever got offered a job there first, we were going.
Okay.
Well, in 2010, my wife got offered the head coaching job at SMU.
Okay.
And so her aunt and uncle live about 10 miles away from SMU. So she and my daughter moved to Dallas, and I maintained our house in Oklahoma. I didn't have a job here. I had bills associated with my job that I couldn't just leave and they just hang out. So in 2011, that was mentally supposed to be my last year at OSU. But still at the end of that season, didn't really have a career lined up here. And we had our worst year in a while
of course,
at nationals. And so literally my wife was like, just stay. we'll make it work. Just do. And so, and at that point, like in that 2011 team, I don't think they didn't know that there was a possibility of me leaving. I didn't want them to know. But then at the 2012 team, like I told them from the beginning that we all knew that like this was going to be it. I was going to be moving and stuff. And it made for a great journey. And made even better. One of the kids documented the whole thing for a project for her school. She made a documentary about it. It's on YouTube. Yeah, and it's called Daytona Dreams. If you ever want to go watch it, it's fantastically done. It's
awesome.
It's legit. So
it was Cheer before Cheer on Netflix.
Yep. Yeah, it was. It kind of was. So yeah, it was just having the opportunity for those two teams to feel that success on the floor, and for it to happen the same, like it was, I couldn't have written it any other way. Like just, it was cool. Like I still looking at that picture right now, I'm just like, I just smile, like the memories and the people, and I'm still connected with so many of those kids still, like on a regular basis. Like, so it's been great. Yeah, just a lot of opportunities that I've been fortunate to have. Getting to shoot, this would have been my ninth time of doing something that I thought I was only going to get to do once.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's been a blessing like no other. Like I remember watching the Olympics and watching the Dream Team and stuff and just thinking, oh man, it would be so cool to get to represent your country doing something that you love, you know, but never did I think that I would get the chance to do it. And so when I was invited to come be a part of the coaching staff in 2011, I was like floored. And I can remember going and telling my wife about it, and she was like, oh my God, yeah, you have to do this. This is so cool. And I told my dad, and my dad's a retired soldier, so he was super stoked that I was getting to represent the country. And you know, it's just been, I don't know, it's hard to find the words to describe it. It's something that I will never ever take for granted. And if somebody told me I couldn't do it anymore, like it would be, I have enough memories and friendships and bonds and stuff that it would be okay. But they keep telling me I can do it till I'm 100. I'm gonna keep doing it because it's just opening ceremony, coming out of that tunnel, like wearing those colors with those letters on your back or on your chest, and that flag in front of you, and seeing all the flags waving. Like I get chills thinking about it every single time.
I tell people, if you have never seen ICU Worlds, you got it. You have to. For me, it's actually my favorite event to go to. It really is. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's
so cool. Like it really is so cool. And it's as close as we've been as cheerleaders to an Olympic stage. And the only thing I can imagine being better is the actual Olympics. Like that would be it. Like it's so cool. And getting to work with athletes from all over the country, from programs that like I've either competed against or I've watched, and working with that amazing coaching staff, like the friends, like they're not people I work with, they're my friends. like, and we all have the same honor, like, and just learning from them and watching them do things and how they do things and bouncing ideas. It's an incredible situation to get to be in. I'm so thankful.
So in about 5 minutes, we're going to start our Q&A here. But before we get to that, I mean, you just talked about it. You know, the only thing that could possibly be greater is competing in the actual Olympics, which in our lifetime, I hope it happens with cheerleading.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, I think, which would be awesome. But, I mean, you did get the opportunity. I'm sorry I covered your face there in the picture. But,
That's all right.
but you did get the opportunity to actually go to the Winter Olympics in South Korea.
Yeah.
Obviously, with Tony and Jomo and Lori. Talk about that experience where you're able to go with University of Kentucky cheerleaders and get to experience the actual Winter Olympics as a demonstration.
It was nuts. It was really, really cool. Just being in the venues and just the aura around it, and to see all of the pomp and circumstance that went into putting it all together. Like, we would go to perform in places that were hours away from the venue. And there would be a full stage set up, and there would be a full crowd for the kids to perform in front of. And like, it was really, really cool. But then when they got to perform we performed in the long track speed skating venue.
Okay.
And that was surreal, because you literally go underground and then you come up on the infield. And so we're loading the mats out there, and we come up on the inside of the track, and it's just huge ice rink, and it's just quiet, and all you can hear is the blades. Like, holy crap. So our warm-up was like 3 hours before we performed. And that was the only warm-up you got, because we weren't like the event. So and so when the kids got to perform, I mean, they were ice cold. They've been sitting in their office on the floor for hours waiting to go, and they ran out there, and they actually told us we couldn't watch. They're like, nope, only the performers. And we're like,
so as coaches, what? You didn't get to see it?
Oh, no, we got to see.
Okay.
we were running through tunnels, and we found this little, and we're hiding to watch. Yeah,
I can actually visualize you four right there, like, just, I can see that.
We just kind of nodded. We're like, okay. We went and found somewhere to watch. So it was, man, that experience, it was cool. It was cool for me on many different levels, because, like you said, it was the University of Kentucky's cheerleaders that were representing us, and like, getting to be around Jomo with his kids was a whole nother level cool for me. Just because you don't get to spend intimate time like that with someone else's program.
Exactly.
So getting just to be the fly on the wall, and when he was coaching, like, just getting to be there, and then like, it was a really cool opportunity. It was good to get to know some of those kids and see them in their natural environment, because normally when the rest of us see them, they are in Kentucky mode. They are representing, and they're go blue, and that's all you get. And so, like, to get them just let their hair down and joke and dance on the bus and make fun of each other, like, was really cool. And it kind of gave a human side to the aura of UK cheer, you know? So for me, it was eye-awakening. I'm like, oh yeah, they're just kids, just like my kids. Like, so
I've had both Jomo and Tony actually as guests on here, and Tony talked about that. He's like, I didn't think my respect could go up more, but when he told that exact story, those kids warmed up hours before, basically threw their first music full out in like 30-some degree. It was like cold outside, and smacked it. Their mindset was like, okay, no problem. You know, like,
I can remember when it was announced that they were going. And how angry people were, and they were like, the national team should be going. The national team. I'm like, no, we would have fallen all over ourselves in those circumstances. They were prepared already. And it wasn't like we were going to ICU. Like, we were going and we were representing all of cheerleading. Like, right then, we didn't have a build-up time. If we had a build-up time, okay, maybe. But we didn't have a build-up. They had to be ready to go. And I remember watching them warm up. Like, we were basically in the walkway of a shopping center, and that was all we had. And so they were stretching there, and it was snowing, and they're throwing stuff like it's their job, and hit it. And I'm like, I look at Tony and shake my head. I'm like, there is no way we could have done this with any other arrangement of people. Like, it just wouldn't work. It had to be a full team, and fortunately for us, it was that team in that environment, because it was the right decision.
Yeah, I again, I remember seeing the video of them in full warm-ups. I think there's some snow coming down.
Oh yeah.
And they threw basically their full out elite, full out intermediate. I mean, I was blown away. Like, I remember sharing that with my kids and being like, no excuses. Clearly no excuses.
I should have sent you the snow globe video. There's a video where we're on this stage. It kind of looks like the band show from Daytona. But I'm behind them.
Yeah.
And you can see the crowd, and you can see these giant snowflakes falling, and they're going full out.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It is everything. And I was like, it's craziness.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, Tony said the same thing. His respect for those athletes and their mindset just completely went up after that, and it was just a great experience, obviously. So
that experience when we got to do the closing ceremony.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so a guy named Ryan Mag and I got to actually choreograph the cheer performance portion of it. Like, not cool. It was crazy.
Like, actually, no.
All these, I mean, the opportunity itself was cool. The process was tedious and hard, and it was so, like, precise because each country had a section of the routine. And so, like, we had, well, I think, like 8 or 12 different countries represented. And so everybody had a segment where they would come out and do part of the routine. And we had to get the transitions in and get the transitions out. And if one country didn't transition in at the right time, then it would throw off the whole rest of the routine. And it happened.
Of course.
And so, but I tell you, the youngest team we had there was the Russian team, and they were a junior team.
Okay.
And we were behind, and somehow they were on it, like language barrier, nothing. Like they caught up to where when we got out there, we were only an 8 count behind. And then, I mean, of course, we were able to get back on because we actually had people with high levels of cheer smarts at that time on the floor. So they were able to, and I mean, we're in a big old arena, so it's not like we're right on top of them and can communicate. So we're yelling and flailing arms and stuff, but it was a great experience.
That's awesome.
The best.
I'm half South Korean. I was born in Korea. So
Cool.
I'll ask you the same question as Tony. How was the food? Did you like the food?
I like some of the food.
Yeah.
I did not like their idea of a box lunch. Their idea of a box lunch and ours is a little bit different. Like, I remember them bringing us these big cardboard boxes of food, and I'm thinking, oh, like a sandwich gonna come out of here, and it was like rice and chicken and kimchi, but it was all room temperature.
Oh gosh,
like,
yeah.
Or cold because it was sitting outside, and so we ate a lot of. Did you know McDonald's delivers in Korea, like way before they started delivering here?
A lot of places in Korea do. Yeah.
So I remember having a guy scooter up with heaters on the side of his scooter with McDonald's for the kids because they were like, we got to eat something. and Lori was the best. Like she would find food for them like in the weirdest places, and it would all come, and it would be so much better than any opportunity we would have had to eat. So it was awesome. Like the cultural experience and being around those other athletes, and then the closing ceremony afterwards, like getting to go out, and I have tons of pictures with like the gold medalists from the US National Team, and like now with like during this quarantine when they're showing all the Olympic flashbacks and stuff and getting to see people are like, oh snap, I got a picture with her. Like, it was great.
Man, that's
really
awesome.
Cool.
Well, we got about 10 minutes left in this interview before Instagram kicks us off, but let's do a Q&A real quick with LeRoy.
Awesome.
I saw this one. This is from A. Stein. This is Allie, actually one of my alums who's now a high school coach. And great question for you. What's your biggest advice for younger coaches?
I think my biggest advice for younger coaches is don't be afraid to draw the line between you and your kids. Like, it's going to be tempting in the beginning to be liked, but that's not really your responsibility. Your responsibility is to build that discipline and sometimes like put your foot down. And so make sure that you don't blur the line between coach and friend, because once you get on the wrong side of that, it's hard to get back onto the other side.
Juliana, great question. Biggest advice for USA Cheer Tryouts. So the USA Cheer Tryouts is always closed to the public. It's very private for very good reasons. So, just kind of talk about the tryout process and what you are looking for, or, really overall for somebody to make the U.S. national team.
I think the biggest advice I would give anybody that's looking to try out for one of the national teams is to trust in your ability. Don't be afraid. Like if you think you have the skill set based on watching the team from last year, like, then go for it. Like, what do you have to lose? If you don't try out, the answer is no. Like, if you do try out, you can get one of two answers. So you might as well go for it. And if you aren't fortunate enough to make it the first time, you know what you need to do better so that you can have a chance to make it the next time. Like, I always tell, like, so many people I think that are talented enough to make that team miss out on the opportunity just because they talk themselves out of it. Like, if you don't try, the answer is always no. I think skill-wise, make sure, again, a good barometer of where you are skill-wise is to look at the routine from the year before and see how your skill set compares with what was performed in the routine. And then come with that and more, because as coaches, we're probably using that as our standard, and then we're trying to build upon that. So just make sure that you are set with the skills that were done and ready to be a part of the advancement forward.
All right, this is from Russell. How did your experience in other sports help with you as an athlete and later in coaching and instruction?
Well, I think my experience in other sports taught me, I think I experienced many different coaching styles. And so it kind of made me able to accept different kinds of coaching. So it also made me realize that's part of what helped me realize that I don't need to coach every kid the same, because every coach I had didn't coach me the same, and you're going to get the best out of athletes when you figure out what it is that motivates them. Some of the kids like you to be in their face and be on them and hold them accountable for every mistake. Some kids need you to pick them up and pat them on the back and help to coax them to the next part. And you just got to figure out what that line is with each of your athletes and coach them accordingly. And that's how you're going to get the best out of them. I think that's what I learned from other sports. I wish I had the mentality as a basketball player and a football player and a baseball player that I had as a competitive cheerleader. I probably would have been better at those.
Like basically being a killer instinct.
Because I honestly, I didn't have that in high school. And I looking at now, like playing pickup, like when I was in my mid-20s, like I was way different than when I was 16, 17.
Exactly.
And my skill set probably wasn't much different, but I think my assertiveness and my attack and my killer instinct was.
All right, we have time for a couple more. We get this question a lot, but I like to ask it because it's always asking basically pick your favorite child. But do you have a favorite USA routine, or maybe one routine that was just has a special place in your heart because maybe of circumstances? Yeah. Okay.
2016, hands down. Yeah, 2016 is my favorite.
And why is that?
We got our only silver medal in 2015. And that was kind of an eye-opener for me as far as I feel like, and I tell my kids this all the time, but I feel like I was responsible for that because I kind of wasn't smart tactically in putting the routine together. And so I'm kind of put us in a position where it was going to be easier for us to not have success. And so it changed my approach to the process. It changed my approach to creating a routine. It was just different. And I think for myself and for our coaching staff, like it was a culmination of maturation for us, really.
Because what people don't realize sometimes, like you're literally putting that routine together in like 10 days, like it's crazy, LeRoy, that you guys put that stuff together in basically 2 weeks, and that blows my mind.
Yeah, it's not easy at all. We've used technology a lot more to give us a head start, so that we can actually have a little more contact with our kids and we can coach from afar. Whereas it used to be, all right, we show up on Friday and that's when we start to see what skills we have. And then we have to then put those things together. And so now we at least have an idea of what skills we're going to do before we get there. And we kind of have an idea of what couples are working, what aren't, who we might want to switch up and stuff. So it kind of gives us a better baseline to start from than starting completely from scratch.
Just a nice shout out to you from a fan. The love and respect I have for you is unreal. Anyone watching this, these are gems. Take it in. So obviously making an impact on some people out there. And then another question that I saw was This is from Jalen. Would you consider coaching a college program again?
Ooh.
Calling you out.
You know, I miss coaching college so much. Like I miss it a lot actually. But where I am career-wise now, it would not lend itself for me to be able to do so. Primarily because, like, I helped to coordinate NCA's college program, so there will
actually talk about that. Yeah, definitely
be a conflict of interest. So my title at NCA is I'm the program director for college programs. Bill Boggs is our vice president of collegiate programs. He's over our entire college program, but I am over the curriculum development, do the staff training with Tucker Hunter, who is our staffing director. And so I just kind of help to make the college ship float as far as from a camp perspective. I do the scoring stuff with Justin Carrier, and so I wouldn't be able to coach a team on my own. Even though I would like to. I'll do pyramid classes or clinics for people and stunt clinics for people and stuff like that. But as far as actually having my own team, I couldn't do it, but I would love to.
So you're saying you would be happy to come to West Lafayette, Indiana, and help out Purdue for a weekend? You would do that?
Well, yeah.
Oh, good to know, my friend. It's good to know. So we got about 3-4 minutes here left, and the last question I love to ask my guests simply is, what is one piece of advice that you've received that still sticks with you today? Something that really changed you, either as an athlete or as a coach, that still resonates with you today?
Sheesh, there's so much. I like to pick and choose and take things from all the people that I've encountered in my life. I feel like that's kind of how sheesh.
I know it's a tough one sometimes.
I know.
People
There's so many of them.
So many of us have been influenced by so many people and so many different, just obviously different coaching styles and things like that.
I think the best one is just that you don't know everything. So don't act like you do, and don't be afraid to learn, and don't ever stop learning, because the person who has stopped learning has stopped living. So I try to continue to grow and learn, and you can learn from all different environments. You can learn from people who are older than you. You can learn from people who have done it better than you or done it more. But you can also learn from your kids. You can learn from the people you're coaching. You can learn from kids on other teams. Like, just be aware of your surroundings and be aware of the messages that are coming at you, whether they're intentional or not, because they're going to help you to get to where you're going.
LeRoy McCullough, thank you so much. I'm going to be honest right now. I think we're going to have to do one of these again, because we didn't even get into cheer athletics. We didn't really get into USA cheer that much. We just had such a great time with your past and everything. So if you don't mind, I would love to invite you back here in a few weeks and kind of get a little more depth. Awesome. That would be awesome, my friend.
Man.
I appreciate it. But LeRoy McCullough,
I ramble a lot. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. No, this is but obviously this is great. I would love to hear more in depth about, really, we didn't get to know about after your move to Dallas. So, I would love to do a follow-up sometime and hear about that.
Okay. Just let me know.
Awesome. Man. I will. LeRoy, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate it.
No problem. Talk to you later.
You too. That's exactly what I knew it would be. It would be awesome. LeRoy McCullough, yes, he is the man. He is such a great influence, a great person, does it for the right reasons. Absolutely, you cannot go wrong with learning from a guy like LeRoy McCullough. But speaking of full-out chats, we have one more on Thursday, and we're keeping the theme of champions here on Thursday. Yes, Brandon Prince, all-girl coach, University of Alabama and Ace Cheer Company, is my guest on Thursday. So if you want to hear from the reigning D1A, UCA all-girl national champion coach, Brandon Prince, will be here on Thursday. Excited to hear his story, hear about the Alabama program, about Ace Cheer, and really hear his story and how he got into coaching. So on Thursday, again, I have Brandon Prince, all-girl coach at the University of Alabama, that'll be joining me here on Full Out Chats. And, of course, on Wednesday, My friends Ben, Mark, and Tony will be joining me for Coach's Corner on YouTube. Again, a special thanks to cheeranddancemusic.com for our intro music. I hope you all had a great time hearing from LeRoy. Again, a special thanks to LeRoy for joining me today. We will definitely have him again soon. So again, as always, stay healthy, stay safe. Have a great day, everybody.